Torch News, Extra Time. Tim Jeffery.
So, hi Tim, thanks for joining us. So you've joined Torch as the interim CEO. First off, can you just explain what interim means, please?
So interim means that I'm only with Torch for a set period of time. So I have a contract for a year to help Torch through some current changes. And part of that then will be recruiting a new chief executive. Will be part of the role to recruit somebody sort of to replace me later on next year.
Okay, and how long have you been working with Torch now?
So I was working with Torch over the summer, mostly by Zoom, which was an interesting experience. So the trustees asked me to come and work with them to help them through some of the challenges that they were facing. So as folk may know, when Julia Hyde left in March, there was, quite a lot of turmoil in the organisation. There were some very difficult times. There had been some big changes going on. The organisation was struggling, obviously, with the start of coronavirus. So there was lots happening, concerns about finances of the organisation. And so the trustees asked me to work with them for several months, helping to sort of explore some of the concerns they had, some of the challenges that they'd been facing, to talk to some members of staff and get their impression, and then to help them to sort of work through and think through, okay, how do we move forward? What have been some of those challenges? How do we resolve those? And then how do we actually take things forward through this very difficult situation?
Okay, and I was just wondering as well, what's the purpose of the role, and what would your goals and visions for the next year be at this point?
So being an interim is an interesting one, because part of the role is to kind of just hold things for a period, but also to move things on, to develop them. So I've sort of got two words as I think about my work at Torch at the moment. The first one is stabilise, and the second one is harmonise. And so there's this sense of, with the harmonise, of any organisation going through big change, facing huge challenges, there are going to be differences of opinion about how things should work, how things should change, what should stay the same, how the limited finances should be used, and so on. So part of the role is to try to find new clarity and harmony together in the organisation, so that we're really hearing where is God taking Torch in this season, and can move forward together. And then the second one is stabilise. Like most charities, Torch is facing quite significant financial pressures. And so the question is, how do we deal with that? How do we recognise, okay, we may have less resources available in the next few years than we have in the last few. So how do we structure ourselves? What do we make sure that we hold on to and protect and at all costs? And what are the things that maybe for a season need to be cut back or reduced a little bit? So there's a sense of finding a new stability for Torch in these very changed circumstances that we're in.
Okay, and so you've known Torch for a little while now. What has been your impression of Torch so far?
What a lovely kind of family feel, a sense of such passion for people who are blind and living with sight loss. And a real sense of mission, that this isn't just an organisation, this is not just a charity, this is a mission. And it's a mission that needs organising rather than an organisation that needs a mission, if you see the difference. And so there's a sense in which I've certainly got a very strong sense of a very committed group of staff and trustees who desperately want to see this organisation thrive so that it can continue to serve people with sight loss in the years to come. a great sense of history, that there's a wonderful history to this organisation of such faithfulness from so many people, and people's generosity in giving their time, in praying for the organisation. So I've worked with lots of Christian organisations, and I love about Torch the sense of, this is a mission, and actually prayer is at the heart of this, and seeking God is at the heart of this. So those have been some of my impressions.
Brilliant. And Torch obviously has a lot of exciting different initiatives, some old, some newer. Can you tell us anything you're particularly excited about among all that?
Well, I think so I've been having an induction and looking round and talking to everybody and understanding things. And I think some of the transcription and production, some of the resources that we produce to help people in their Christian walk are just fabulous. Talking with the folk in client services who are in touch day by day, hour by hour with people ringing up with concerns or issues or wanting to talk to somebody, just such lovely, compassionate, caring responses. So those are beautiful. I think the other thing is, as folk will know, we've had to make the really difficult decision at the end of last year to close the Holiday and Retreat Centre, which was an incredibly difficult decision for the trustees to have to make. But it was something that had clearly been a wonderful provision for so many people, but financially it just wasn't it wasn't working. And so one of the things we're doing it now, folk may have heard of Torch Together, of recognizing how important it is for people to be able to get away on a holiday, on a retreat where they feel safe, where they're looked after, where they have great Christian fellowship and teaching. And so we're looking at how do we do that in 2021, not really knowing what COVID-19 is going to do and whether we're going to be able to, as we had to in this last year, to not do the things that we planned, but saying actually there's a new opportunity there. How can we do that well? How can we bring Torch closer to people? So not everybody has to go down to the south coast to the centre, but actually we can make it more accessible and available around the country. So I think looking at that is going to be interesting. And clearly too, there's as things have changed so much with this new world of Zoom and YouTubing and home working and stuff. I certainly know a lot of people who have very much increased their kind of technical ability over this time. They've had to. And so I think we also need to look as an organisation at how do we make use of this modern technology, and how do we help people to maybe access some of the things that they would have accessed before in other ways, through the internet and in virtual ways. So I think looking at how does Torch make the most of this God-given opportunity, and help people along their journey of increasing with their own sort of technical ability. And I'm also hearing that there are lots of younger people who are blind and partially sighted and losing their sight, who are much more tech savvy than many people have been, and many of our older clients. And how does Torch engage with them? What do we do? How do we help them in their Christian walk? So that all needs exploring, some of which we'll be able to start in the year that I'm with Torch, some of which we'll be setting up for the future when the new chief exec is appointed.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, that sounds really exciting and really great for Torch. So thank you very much for speaking with me today.
Bless you, Grace.
Support Torch through prayer, volunteering, giving. Find out how at torchtrust.org.